Now first let's look at step 1 of sewing these pajama pants together. The first step that we're going to do is we're going to attach pockets number 11 to both 9 the front and 10 the back. And so if you go to the upper hand corner of page 3, step 1 shows you how to proceed. With right sides together, you're going to match up those dots and you're going to match up that notch with the pocket and the sides of your front and back pieces. What's really important to note is when you sew the seam right here, you're going to be sewing it at 3/8 of an inch. You're not sewing it at 5/8 of an inch, which is the standard seam allowance. For this pocket, you're going to be making it a little bit narrower, and that's going to be at 3/8 of an inch. So here is my front, one of my fronts, number 9, and this is the right side. The wrong side has the pencil marks. So this is the wrong side of the fabric, and so with right sides together, with pretty sides together, I'm going to be attaching the pocket. So this pocket matches up with the front. So this should look exactly like your instructions. So the next step is you have to match the 2 dots up on the pocket with the 2 dots. Oops, that is really off on your pajama pants. So I have to move this way down here. So that may or may not be right. So it would behoove you to pin the pocket starting at this dot and then pin the pocket at that dot also. So if you have pins, that's terrific. I have a little pin here. I'm going to be sticking the pin through that dot and then making sure it emerges exactly on the dot on the other side, like this. So that's great. If you don't have pins, you could also use a safety pin. Anything that's long and pointy, that has a point, like don't use a bobby pin. So I could stick this through the pocket hole, the dot, and make sure that it comes out here. Oh, that's off. So let me correct that. It comes right through that dot. So just pretend like your safety pin is a pin. So don't close it up. Just attach the 2 pieces together. I also just want to confirm that the notch I cut out here corresponds to the notch I cut out on the pants. You see? So I know that these 2 are lined up properly and that I have my dots lined up. So this is a go, and I'm going to be stitching that up next. Just a reminder, the dots on the pockets are at 5/8 of an inch. So your seam is actually going to be a 1/4 inch above those 2 dots. So get your needle and thread, and you can start stitching this up. I'm going to be using brown thread for demonstration purposes so that you can see my stitching line better. But you can use a thread that matches your pants. Now don't forget, we're going to be using a double thread, not a single thread, because that's going to be stronger. And we're going to put a knot at the end of the thread. So you've stitched your miniature pajama pants, and so you've mastered the knot tying. So remember I was threatening you that we were going to have to be using a back stitch to sew up these pajama pants. A back stitch is very laborious because every time you sew, you got to sew backwards again, and so you can only do 1 stitch at a time like this. And I think that's just going to take too long. So what I want to do, you have to promise me that you make the tiniest stitches possible, okay? Like don't do some giant base like this. Like that is not going to work. This stitch is too big. Don't do your stitch like this. It's got to be smaller. So I've folded my seam gauge at the 3/8 inch mark so that I know exactly where it is while I'm sewing. So I can just kind of hold it up as I'm sewing. When you're sewing the pocket on, you're going to start at the very edge of your pocket fabric. So you're not going to start at the dot. That's just a placement. But you're going to start sewing right at the edge of the pocket fabric, like so. And then I'll just compare that to my seam gauge, and yes, it's on. So I'm going to sew this all the way down to the bottom. And you see, it's a lot easier to do a tiny stitch than it is to do a back stitch, because with the back stitch you are not able to take many tiny stitches like this, so it goes a lot faster. Oh, let me just make sure my seam is right. Yeah, it's still on. It's a little bit high, but so let me just correct that. Okay, halfway there. Making my tiny little seam. And well, the bottom of the pocket is the same as the top of the pocket, which means you're not stopping at the dot. You're going all the way to the end of the pocket fabric. Take this pin out, almost there. To the end of the pocket, and I'm going to take a knot. And you can recall I sent directions on how to knot the fabric off, so you can refer to that. Just snip this, and I have my first pocket right here, and I have to repeat this 3 more times with the other pockets. So here are the two, the front and the back pieces with the pockets stitched on. It looks just like the sewing instructions. Note in the sewing instructions that when the pattern piece is gray, that's the pretty side of the fabric, and when the pattern piece is depicted as white, that's the wrong side of the fabric. So if you were to look at this on the pattern instructions, the front and the back pieces, 9 and 10, would be gray, and then the 2 pockets would be white because the right sides have been stitched together. So I'm going to do this, but I'm going to repeat this for the left side of the body. So it's going to be just like this, but mirror image.